Odysee live streaming now since they enabled the feature because I always
Nice. I
want to
gotta set
support.
that up. Mm-hmm.
It's working pretty seamlessly. Like I mean, I still think it's a good idea to have YouTube. Let's be honest. But now YouTube, but uh, it got to the point where I was like live streaming on Odysee. It is working and playlists.
Oh
And
wow.
so like once those two things and they actually get it like stable and working, um, then it's like it'd be pretty much no excuses at that point, right? Like at that point
Yeah.
it's gonna be like only you could just only do the non YouTube stuff, which is fantastic. But
Right.
um, let me refresh the Odysee page just to make sure we're all good there. Um, I think we have a YouTube person watching. Hey, YouTube person. It's just one of you right now, but that's fine. I'll forgive you. Um, says live stream in progress, which is good now that they're actually doing like push notifications when you go live too, which is
Nice.
again that's it's all nice, but let's see if oh, it's starting to kick in, I think. Is it starting to kick in? Is it working? Okay, whatever. Well, that's probably enough of that like right. Yeah. So, hey, a few people, we're gonna have a great show today. Yeah, let me just roll this intro, and then we'll get into it. Yeah. So, hey, everyone, I have the wonderful pleasure today of welcoming you guys into Friday. And guess what? I got my good buddy here, Crypto Blood. How's it going, man?
Hey, hey, man. I'm glad to be back on. We always have great conversations, so
Yeah, for
looking
sure.
forward to this, man.
Yeah, and so if you're watching on YouTube, it's YouTube, whatever. Um, we're also and there in the YouTube link, there's in the description, there's a link to the Odyssey stream. So give that a shot. If I prefer you watch on Odyssey, of course, because support good decentralized tech. But if it's not working, then go to YouTube. And always remember, if you want to ask questions or do anything like that, if I'm ignoring you in the live chat, that means you got to use the Cointree live chat, cointr.ee/the desert links, as you should see on the screen there. And you throw me a couple bucks. I'm paywalling Crypto Blood today. If you want to talk to him, you got to pay me. And then yeah, we'll get you in the live chat thing, and I'll read it out. So yeah, with all that being said, let's just jump into stuff. So first
Yeah,
off,
man.
um, how are you enjoying being, I guess, less of a baller than you were like a few days ago?
No, I have PTSD from 17. I'm like, should I just
Yeah.
like pull everything?
Yeah, just the
But
fall off the cliff.
I think it's different this time. We say that every time, but I
Mm-hmm.
really truly do see things being different, and not even in crypto, more so on the traditional side, the monetary side of things, with all of this printing, all this these stimmy bucks is what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't see that ending anytime soon. It's just a different paradigm that we're in versus 2017's peak, which was kind of 17's peak was more so isolated within
Mm.
cryptos. Like it was caused by internal things going on within cryptos to cause that bear market to start. This go around, I just don't see that happening, other than some external things that might have been the catalyst for the small pullback that we not small, but small the pullback we did have over the
Mm-hmm.
weekend, which was from Janet Yellen and Treasury and all of that. So we can get into that conversation, but we'll see, man. I always tell people, we have not fought the biggest battle in crypto yet. That
Yeah.
is still to come.
Yeah, I mean, I keep on hearing about all kinds of nonsense regulations and stuff being talked about. So far, seems like it's been pretty reasonable, pretty old system kind of doesn't want to acknowledge the new system. Like there's bits and pieces where there's like banks getting involved with this and then governments accepting taxes in that, and like there's like little bits, but they still haven't been like, all right, this is the new economy. They're still like, well, and once there's that like acceptance, either it's just like, yes, crypto's here to stay, but we're going to regulate the crap out of it, or yes, crypto's here to stay and we're not going to regulate the crap out of it. Whichever way it is, there's always going to be that uncertainty until we kind of hit that like both.
Hell out of it, you
Yeah,
know.
it's probably going to be. That's probably going to be it. The thing is, I wonder how many people, and this is where like corruption's a good thing, you know, is like I wonder how many people in government are going to be big bag holders of stuff like before they manage to get around to regulating it, and then they're like they don't want to regulate the crap out of their own bags, so they're like, well, come on guys, let's be reasonable. And maybe that's just me being a little bit.
They're going and they are doing that. They're going to do that. They always need to position themselves within that whatever it is that's threatening them. They have to join the party in
Mm-hmm.
order to then turn around and write rules that benefit them.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, you're going to have governments and everything get into Bitcoin and cryptos and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and then turn around and make it to where almost like they're loosening up on the laws when it comes to secondary investment, secondary markets and investing,
Mm-hmm.
with Reg CF or all those different regulations that they've been kind of getting better with, but still in that whole VC world, private equity world, um, you got to be qualified, right? So
Yeah.
I can see a scenario where they really force or higher the bar in that regard on who can play in this space, depending on your net worth. It all is predicated on your net worth. So we'll see though, man. We'll see. It won't stop this industry at all.
Mm-hmm.
I have to always reiterate that part.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think the last battle to fight is a Janet Yellen type event where she comes out and says, or just Congress, they come out, write laws that in some draconian way stifles the growth of Bitcoin and cryptos. And that's still to come. And I really do think, Joel, that is on the way. It
Mm-hmm.
just we haven't hit that peak in the consciousness of everyone. Like most people still, we're in crypto, so we think everyone knows about cryptos. Everyone has a
Yeah.
Dogecoin, right? But honestly, they don't. Most people don't. I literally the other day said, guy asked me what I was doing. I said I'm working on new website launch for my company.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, what industry are you in? I'm in blockchain. He's like, what's that? I'm like, crypto. He's like, no, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, Bitcoin. He's like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard of Bitcoin. And it's
Yeah.
still that's actually most people. I would say that's about 85% of population, maybe even more. The investment class
They
understands
all know about it.
100, yeah, 95% of the investment class.
Yeah. It's funny. I think with this might be like the last. Maybe I don't know, being optimistic or whatever. This might be the last bull market before it becomes like in everyone's consciousness. Because at least in terms of like everyone has some sort of exposure to it as far as like in terms of like their mind, but also probably in terms of like investment. And there's like, social channels and stuff, and like every comedian says something about that these days or something like that. I remember I was watching some UFC fight a few weeks ago, and then they were interviewing like the heavyweight champion, and he like they're saying, if you could do one thing over in your career, what would it be? He's like, man, I go back in time and buy a bunch of Bitcoin. And like you just start seeing those things pop in, and then there's a bunch of like normie friends of mine who just all of a sudden are all about the Doge, and
Oh
like
man.
I'm starting to see it like people like, wait, you're kind of into that, and then like then they're all like, oh, Elon save us, and like, oh god. you know, when it crashes like 40% or whatever it is. So I think going to basically be mostly over this cycle, and then in another like 4 or 5 years, I think that's when it's like everyone's into it. That's just
Yeah, and
my
then I
idea.
think that's when you'll see the big attack at
Mm,
cryptos at that point. It's all about optics, man, and controlling the narrative. And Bitcoin continues to head the way it's heading, and
mm-hmm.
price wise. I'm just strictly talking about price, not if
Mm-hmm.
it's an efficient cryptocurrency, if it's the best current, none of that. Just literally price. Price
Mm-hmm.
speculation. If we see Bitcoin continue heading to 100,000, 500,000, $1 million a coin, they're going to do something.
Yeah, that's for sure. Uh, which, by the way, kind of brings up the next little point of the Bitcoin dominance. So usually when there's a crash, you see Bitcoin dominance go up because everyone's scared of like the other ones, but doesn't seem to be quite the case. I have not kept my eyes glued on the price kind of thing, but it looks. I mean, Bitcoin dominance is under 50%. It's been a long time since we've seen that,
That's
and
good.
I mean, I obviously I think it's yeah. Well, what's your hot take on
Doge
that
stole a
first?
lot of.
Yeah, Doge took a lot of that. Doge and then Safe Moon and Safe Mars and all those weird things.
Yeah, man. So 50% or under 50 is good. I think that shows a level of maturity in the market generally.
Yeah.
So big collectively blockchain, the industry grows. It's going to be more things that happened that has nothing to do with Bitcoin. There's going
Yeah.
to be more economic activity that occurs that has nothing to do with Bitcoin. So
That's for sure. And I like when I see the dominance trend, it's always been down, which is the way it should be, right? It should be if you have a healthy growing space, it should be not about just this one, like, oh, we created one thing that's worthwhile,
exactly.
and then we everything else we screw up from then on. It like
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense. But a lot of maximalists don't seem to like that. They're like, no, it's gonna all the shit coins are gonna die or whatever. But it's also funny
Not.
about. But I think they're gonna start to care about it. Like for example, like the hash rate crash, right? So Square, for example, is because the fees are insane right now, right? They raised the minimum Bitcoin withdrawal to 0.001 Bitcoin
It's
over
like
the whole.
50 something bucks now. Yeah.
Yeah, which is it's that's less than a transaction fee cost these days, I guess. But it's what people don't realize with what happened. There's basically a shutdown of about 25% of the hash rate, I guess, in China. And what people don't necessarily realize is the difficulty adjustment for Bitcoin takes a long time.
Yes, it does.
And so it just basically you're running at 75% capacity for like, I guess weeks, right? For a long time
Yes,
until
it's weeks.
it's 2016 blocks, I believe. And I'm not inclined to do the head math real quick on like what that translates to in time, but like it's a long time of all of a sudden a quarter of the network capacity just went away. And this is a network that was already way over capacity. And so then fees just went up. Everything's not working. And like I've been dabbling a lot in like lightning stuff lately. I was running a
Yeah.
lightning node and I was like trying to get like open like lightning wallet to do everything for you in the background. They're just like, yeah, we can't do a lot of stuff because of on-chain problems. And I'm like, oh man, I thought, isn't this the point of like off-chain, is that you don't have to deal with this, but like one ripple effect. And the thing is, it doesn't need to be that way. Like since 2014 or so, I know at the very least Digibyte and Dash have had like every
Oh yeah.
block difficulty adjustment where, if there's a
Yep.
25% thing and Bitcoin doesn't. And why? Like it's old tech. It's like seven
Yes, it
year
is
old
old tech,
tech.
man. And the thing is, back in the day, we had a situation like that with Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And price, quick price crash,
Mm-hmm.
then resulted in a exodus of miners from the network,
Mm-hmm.
and hash rate drop. Difficulty rate, as you said, is a step. It's a stepping, like a
Yeah.
lockstep function. If you look at the charts, and at that point there was conversation about what happens if we get into like this feedback loop where
Yeah.
I don't know if that would be a scenario nowadays, but it's old tech, man, and shame on those who are still Bitcoin maximalists. Like I can understand like Bitcoin may be your favorite coin, okay? I
Yeah.
can't, but for you to be a maximalist when there's literally so many other uh, l- technology stacks that are doing it better
Yeah.
and show not even just doing it better, but actually have numbers to prove it. You take a look at Telos or EOS.
Mm-hmm.
Their on chain activity has not been surpassed. It's been at the top for over 2 years. So other chains, Digibyte, all these other coins are actually doing things in the right way and in a more efficient way. Um,
Yeah.
just takes time, I guess. Takes some more maturity in the market.
I mean, that might it's one of those like conspiracy theory things where whenever we talk about like what happened with the Bitcoin scaling wars, and I have some very clear opinions of like what happened,
I do.
but it's kind of funny how Bitcoin got backed into a corner, right? And the corner is, well, we cannot increase the block size for whatever reason, and and the whole reason for that is everyone should be able to run their own node. Well, I run my own node and it sucks. Like not everyone can run their own node today because it just like syncing the blockchain for like 2 weeks to just initial start 400 gigabytes, like all that kind of stuff. 300 something, but whatever. It's like and growing all the time. Like that's not something everyone can do as is. I don't know what you're saving with the only 1 megabyte thing. But then the other thing is cannot hard fork ever again. And it's like, okay, well, what if you just hard forked real quick and, you double, like, did a 2 megabyte block size and change the difficulty adjustment algorithm? All of a sudden, everything would be so fantastic. But it's just like, no, we
Man,
can't do
Bitcoin go
that.
to $1 million
Yeah. I mean, I
if they did
honestly,
that.
like, I think that we're at the point now where technology's too advanced. There's too many rid of um, pretty much first off all the Bitcoin forks. Like the Bitcoin Gold wouldn't exist, which I don't know why it does exist anyway. But like Bitcoin Cash and SV would not exist if they just changed a couple things like that. Litecoin would be forgotten about by now probably if you could scale a little bit better or things like that. There'd be like a lot of like big a couple years before coming out because they would have tried to do a lot of that stuff on Bitcoin first before they were like, you know what, we should probably do our own chain for this. So yeah, anyway, that was a little bit of a rant.
No, no, you make perfectly good sense, man. I agree. You know, I think that where we are with Bitcoin is a self-inflicted gun wound. And I think it was out of greed to keep control over how to scale and to monopolize and extract value from that scaling solution by a core group of individuals.
Yeah. And it's funny that that's like, how is that not like seen by now? Like a lot, you know what I'm saying?
Because it's blinded by greed, the greed factor. Everyone's just weren't worried about Bitcoin going to $1 million.
Yeah.
That's why I mean, like over time, the market will wake up to that organically.
Mm-hmm.
The market will come to a point, an inflection point, where they're going to say, I can just use some other
Mm-hmm.
blockchain to scale Bitcoin as is happening now. I remember I told you just use wrap BTC
Yeah.
in your tweet. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the market will come up with solutions whether or not Blockstream does it or not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's going to be, I think that like, the kind of, I mean, this is like a super long, belabored point that, everyone's sort of talked about it for a long time. But I would just say, I do think that uh, when we still didn't know what the effects of scaling versus not scaling were. I mean, we kind of, if we're dumb, we kind of figure out what they could have been. But like it was still very like not known about back in the day. And then the people who were very invested in off chain enough, but then the price kept going up, and so most people are like, hey, like I wasn't really buying coffee with it anyway. Like, this is fine, and then just sort of like pushed it off, and now everyone just sort of ran on momentum, and they just said, well, this is the way Bitcoin went, and it's worth more than anything else. So clearly, the market values whatever the Blockstream approach was. And I really don't think people are going to take a second look until the Blockstream approach like sinks them, until the price starts to suffer as a result. And like the slowly dipping dominance factor is, I don't think that's enough to do it, honestly. But if it gets low enough, to where it's just like, all right, Bitcoin's 15-20% of the market, and then Ethereum's like 23% or something, then at that point, I think it's going to be like, all right, we need to make some big changes here.
No, I think, honestly, I think it's not even going to be a dominance thing that's going to be the metric to really put the fire under their feet. It's going to be a price thing.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is if we get to a point where, dominance will fall, of course, because of this scenario that I'm going to speak of. But if you get to a point where Bitcoin just hovers at $100,000 and goes nowhere for 2-3 years, 4 years, and the delta between all those other coins you start seeing like Ethereum at $20,000 a coin, and EOS at $1,000 a coin, or whatever the case is. That's when I think the pressure from the market will maybe come on to them a little bit. It just depends, man. It's so complex because if Wall Street continues to take over Bitcoin, essentially that's what's happening. They're using it as a means of storing wealth. Then maybe not. Maybe it's not even, still won't be a problem. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think it's they just kind of like, people just say, oh, buy crypto and you make a ton of money. Well, so far, because the space is so new. In the future, like these epic gains of like, I spent a couple grand and I'm a millionaire now kind of thing, are just not going to happen anymore. It's going to be slower and slower. And then at some point, as you said, I mentioned like the leveling out kind of aspect of it. It's just going to be like, why would you buy a ton of Bitcoin if it goes up by like 10% a year, which is, still pretty good, right? But then why would you do that? And then you spend a whole bunch on fees. You can't really do much with it. So it's like it eats into your profits. So maybe you only make 5% a year. But then if you have like Ethereum, then you like, wrap it here, stake it there, do a sushi swap over there. It's all that kind of stuff. And you won't be making like 20,000% like you might make today, but like you can still be making like 20-30% maybe, I don't know. And then people are going to be like, hey, well, maybe can't we DeFi this whole Bitcoin thing? Which all that profit stuff reminds me of this thing. Apparently the Seoul, South Korea government has identified exchanges, and so what's your hot take on that? 22 million,
man. 22 million worth of crypto. Again, these are the attacks that we have yet to see come to the shores of the United States. They're going to come, bro.
Yeah.
All this type of stuff is coming. I think doesn't surprise me. The thing, and that's the thing. I think with Dash and Digibyte, you guys have very good mixing obfuscation tools built in the framework. Of the blockchain. That's going to be more important than ever.
Be seized. It's not like, oh, they made 22 million and then they didn't pay enough on their capital gains. It's like, no, that's what they just took of all their money. Like, how much did they have to make? And the other thing is, seized off of 3 major exchanges. So what are you doing? Taking that little selfie and just being like, nah, I'm fine. Like, no one's going to do anything. Like, what are you doing? Just like, understand, when you buy stuff off exchanges, you're on the radar. That's already like step one, right? But even then, you have the money on exchanges, so, they just take it off the exchange. Like, I don't know. It's a little,
I mean,
a little silly.
People aren't thinking. They're not. When you buy from a regulated exchange, Every transaction on that in that ecosystem is being tracked. In addition to any wallet that you send externally from that ecosystem outward is being tracked as well.
Yeah.
So
That that's
people
an
need to keep that in mind.
that's an interesting thing to see is like all the regulate because I can't believe there's some people in the old days who are like, oh yeah, I bought like some crypto off these exchanges that all went defunct and before a certain age, they just like bought stuff with their bank account and there's just no accountability or paper trail or anything. Those days are long gone. Now anywhere you interface with the
Unfortunately,
fiat world, you interface with the fiat world.
yeah.
But what I'm waiting for to where we really see is like when you're like plugged into the matrix, you're in the like the crypto world, like you're like it's all like still Wild West territory. What I wonder is when is that going to be over? When let's just say you have a mining rig and you mine some whatever, and then use Uniswap to swap it to something else and start staking it here and all this kind of stuff. Like
Uniswap is next to be attacked before even a all out Bitcoin attack. I think the first wave is going to be an attack of those types of exchanges. Those DeFi exchanges. So Uniswap will be
mm-hmm,
attacked without a shadow of a doubt. They're VC backed, VC funded. They're going to be attacked and fold.
mm-hmm.
So you're going to have KYC, AML with those exchanges in the future.
Necessarily require KYC because it's a DEX, but
No,
then
you can think about it from the interface. So
mm-hmm,
I mean, unless you're savvy enough to interact with their smart contract, no, they can still do that. So they can have it where I go to Uniswap, I want to connect my wallet. Well, in order to connect your wallet and actually utilize it, it needs to be whitelisted. That address needs to be whitelisted. Well, how do I get my address whitelisted? You have to go through KYC.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's ways I'm sure you could do that. The thing is, you could also just like fork the code and create a Uniswap that doesn't have that.
Oh, of course. But
And
then
then,
you're starting all over again and building a base. And
yeah,
it slows everything down. And people out of convenience, Joel, are just they're gonna
yeah,
just do the KYC.
yeah.
You know
That's
it.
that's probably true. The thing is, it's getting more and more of it is moving to like the DEX side of things. So the fiat on ramps and stuff as like choke points, and they're kind of ignoring a lot of the other stuff. But at some point, that's going to end. At some point, they're
Yeah.
going to just it. Well, that's just going to be interesting to see is like what are the is if there's an exchange that's like a DEX that's run, are they just going to like ban it from all app stores or like blacklist the IP address or whatever? Like, are you just is that the way you're going to do it? There's just going to be ones you have to literally go through Tor to try to like access any of these kinds of things, and then there'll be the legit ones. Like, it'll be very interesting to see how the whole thing shakes out, or if they're just
I don't
going.
think you'll have to go through Tor
Mm-hmm,
necessarily at least at first. The first wave will just be literally an attack on dexes like Uniswap
mm-hmm,
and Sushi Swap and all of these other ones. Um, the SEC has a long arm.
mm-hmm.
They're the long arm of the law. They stretch from every jurisdiction. It doesn't matter. We've seen that happen. So even with a Uniswap, I think is out in Japan. I believe the maker. I don't know where you not Uniswap, but Sushi Swap. I don't know where that is, but I know for sure Uniswap is going to be attacked, and have to do the KYC AML. And a Sushi Swap scenario is the same thing. Like they'll say, well, hey, you can't accept U.S. citizens,
Mm-hmm.
so it'll be like a very light KYC AML. At least you have to validate you're not a U.S. citizen. So stuff like that, man. I mean, until we get to the point where our internet is decentralized, which
Mm-hmm.
is what we need, and I think is the next level and evolution of blockchain.
Yeah.
Until that happens, we're still gonna have those bottlenecks, those issues.
Yeah, it's crazy to see that evolve the way it does because it's gone from just traditional finance providing liquidity for Uniswap and getting transaction fees, but like obviously just like someone with tokens is doing that. Who knows who's behind those tokens, and it just anyone can do it. But like, how are they going to crack down? Like, are they going to like trace those people and find out who are the people behind them and just make sure they're paying taxes on their exchange on their like market making fees, automated market making fees, or are they just going to say if it doesn't have KYC, we're going to shut it down or block it in the country? Like, it'll be interesting to see which way we like providing liquidity and then just like, hey, you know what? This is great. Like, I'm gonna just like not crack down on my own cash cow now. Although I don't think that Janet Yellen would do that, but who knows with the other
Nah, those
regulators?
guys don't need cash. They have power, man. Power is
Hmm.
even bigger than personally concerned. They're concerned corporately,
Yeah.
but not personally. They have enough money. Like I've had this conversation with a billionaire
Hmm.
years ago about crypto. I'm like, he's like, well, what is it about crypto? Why should I get into it? And I'm explaining, and I thought about it in my head. I didn't say this to him. I'm like, you've already won the game of
Hmm.
money.
Yeah.
I understand why you don't really care about it.
Yeah.
You don't need to you know what I'm saying? You like you've won the game in the old system, so there is literally no incentive for you to go make
Hmm.
another $1 trillion in the new system.
Yeah. How familiar are you with the Veritasium case? Because I got a live chat question from Hilawi saying, did the SEC have a real case against Veritasium to put them in receivership, or was it punishment for not cooperating enough? His reason I'm asking is comment about the SEC having a long arm.
Yeah, that's another example. I mean, with Veritasium and Reggie, I mean, I always thought that it doesn't matter. I put it to you this way: it doesn't matter what you say and how many times you say your token isn't a security.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to them. Like they
Yeah.
change the rules and bend the rules, so it really you can't really win. And Reggie's not the only one. There's been numerous companies, uh, you know, killed by the SEC.
Yeah.
So
It's like that old
and
aliens meme, you know? I'm not saying it's a security, but it's a security.
yeah, exactly, man. I mean, I thought in my eyes, I thought it was playing out as a security.
Hmm.
Uh, it could have actually been worse for Reggie, to be honest with you. Some of the stuff that I know about it
Yeah.
behind the scenes of what had what had gone down. So, was it fair? No. It could have been worse? Yeah. So now I don't even think he can. At least from this SEC case, he can't even do anything that has anything to do with a token going forward. So that's weird.
Yeah, and that's
I don't understand that part.
I don't know how closely you would pay attention to the library case, but that one's weird. Like as far as not alleging any damages, any damaged party, not alleging any fraud, not bringing criminal complaint against any individuals at all. And the only thing they say is library sold tokens that then it continued to develop on at a later date. And that weird precedent would be like every Bitcoin Core developer who like got some Bitcoin donations to keep doing it, and then oh wait, the protocol has changed now. Oh, all of a sudden that was a security. Like the weird precedent that sets, and the weird part of that in particular is this comes after they were basically like, oh yeah, Ethereum's probably not a security, even though it probably was when it started out, but then it turned into not a security later. I'm like, well, someone at the SEC is an ETH bag holder, but it's like, I don't know, the case could be pretty interesting. The precedent it sets, you know?
What about XRP? I'm not a fan at all of XRP.
Yeah.
That's another um, under their own guidelines, right? Under their own rules. I think it definitely falls under that XRP. That is.
Yeah.
Um, you just never know, man. They write the rules and change them, so it doesn't even matter. If
Yeah.
you are right, they can change the rules to make it that you're not right.
Yeah, and like on a
Yes.
whim, not just like, oh, we've
Yes.
decided to revise our like no, they're just making it up as they go along, kind of,
Yeah.
and a bit more standard. But
Well, you got to fight fire with fire in this case, and that means that the big whales in crypto have to start a pack
Mm-hmm.
and have to start playing that dirty game and paying off politicians,
Yeah.
and getting them to. That's the only way to change it. You got to pay them off big time. So
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is I think there's a lot of obviously like the payoff and the lobbying and stuff is one part of it. It's also that too many people in positions of power in government are, boomers, they're old. They don't know how this stuff works. And it's the age of funds, right? When you start having like crypto funds that you can invest in with your 401k, and like once they start to do that, then you're going to see a lot more like members of Congress, for example, who are going to be able to be bag holders, rather than just like have a Coinbase account or whatever. And then at that point, I think they're going to start to, they're going to start to see the green.
mm-hmm.
It'll be a little different.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Emphasis on the greed. Right? Agreed.
Agreed. Right.
Well, speaking
No,
of,
that makes sense, man. I agree. It's gonna take it's gonna take some time. It's not gonna happen overnight.
yeah.
Generationally, literally a generational gap.
Now, what do you think of like greater regulatory powers to combat the rise of financial greenwashing, a deceptive practice where a company overstates or fabricates the extent of its green energy usage? And of course, we're talking about Bitcoin mining for the most part. There's a ton of hype about, oh, this is, we're burning a hole in the entire planet. The planet's going to die because we're doing too much Bitcoin or stuff. And then you have like the Bitcoin maximalist people who would say, well, actually, no, it's just no more usage than like half of like toasters in the morning or some shit like that. Like it seems like there's like two extremely disparate narratives on energy consumption of proof of work. And like it's either a horrendous huge deal or it's absolutely no big deal, it seems like.
It's the people are being hyperbolic
Yeah. What do
about
you
it.
think?
Yeah, it's nonsense, man. It's nonsense. The whole NFT, they tried to attack the NFTs as well. So it's nonsense, man. I'm not a huge believer in human caused what do you call it? What's the environmental issues that we have? I forgot what you call that, but I'm not really a big believer in that. I think these are cycles that are bigger than us.
You mean like climate cycles?
Climate cycles, right? They're bigger than us. It has to do more so with the sun, ebb and flow, and all that, and the solar system and stuff. It's just way bigger than how much we mine with Bitcoin or how many cars we drive. And so
Yeah.
climate change is happening. I'm not negating that. The world is circular or whatever the shape of it is.
Not a
I'm
disc
not saying,
flying through.
yeah. I'm not saying it's flat. I'm not saying that there is that move. So, yeah, I think it's all nonsense.
Yeah. And the thing is, I wonder if it's just like a temporary nonsense that people are talking about, or if it's kind of a nonsense narrative that will have legs, and people will have to basically focus a lot on like proof of stake cryptocurrencies, for example, just for purely political reasons, right? Because
Yeah,
this
no,
one's green, this one's green.
yeah, for sure. So, proof of work is very inefficient. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't. That's why you see the second generation of blockchains are all, for the most part, proof of stake or some derivative of that, or a hash graph, something that doesn't use that much energy. It's very hard to scale proof of work to the level that we need it to be. Like Bitcoin used as proof of work by 7 billion people. Nah, so that's a huge problem. I don't even think it's going to make it that far. So, yeah, I don't act like, proof of work isn't an issue. It is for sure.
Yeah, that's always been it's one of those things where proof of work was obviously at the first to, come on the crypto scene as far as like the modern cryptos we use. Things have fully solved yet. Like the first thing is of course like the coin distribution thing. because if you start purely proof of stake, I guess you start with one coin and the one person who has it controls the entire supply forever after. Whereas it takes a while for mining to get more centralized and like, but even then, anyone can kind of buy or build a mining rig and start. Even that's not easy. It just that kind of open participation system. And so, like, for example, if like I wonder if we're ever going to be able to get rid of proof of work, or if all the good projects are going to be sort of like a sunset type thing where it just like starts like 1% proof of stake, 99% proof of work, and like every month or whatever, every few weeks, it like switches until proof of work kind of gets like done away with.
I think any of the newer projects are not going to be proof of work. I haven't seen
Mm-hmm.
any. Have you? In the recent years, like any new blockchain coming out, I haven't seen like, oh, we've got a new proof of work blockchain.
Yeah.
Like, huh?
Yeah.
I just
People do that as like, I think it's like a possibly like a risk averse type of a thing because proof of stake is still new enough that there's some issues here and there. It's a higher chance that you run into those things. But I'm pretty sure like a lot of it is just like an appeal to the old school, you know. So like I'm
hmm
trying to think about the major proof of work chains that are new, and it's like okay, well, first I mean Zcash is not super new, but it's kind of new,
hmm
right?
I
And
wouldn't count it as new.
yeah, and but then you go to like what was it like Grin I think is the biggest example of that kind of stuff because they're like proof of work, fair launched, all these kind of things that everyone, all the old school people are always talking about, and then it just like bombed, because apparently that kind of
It's
stuff
the
only
biggest.
applies to like Bitcoin or like Bitcoin nostalgia, which is other Bitcoins. But like
Yeah.
no one's gonna be like, oh, let's just make it like a new Bitcoin and like just like that. It's like nope. It seems like everyone needs to start out with a war chest and have staking. Otherwise,
hmm
you're gonna die in like if you do like a new project.
Yeah, and that's the evolution of it. So typically, you evolve into something more smarter and more efficient. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we're witnessing with blockchain, heading from a lot of proof of work to proof of stake,
Now,
delegated proof of stake, and all these other ones.
on the other side, imagine what would happen if Bitcoin decided to go proof of stake. Like, I'm pretty sure like the value would like tank
Skyrocket.
overnight. I think it would tank in the very
Let me
short
see.
term.
Let me think. Let me think. So if we go proof of, I don't even know how. Hmm. No, it will go up because proof of stake requires a freeze. It takes
Hmm.
supply out of the equation, right? So
Yeah,
all those bitcoins will have to go off to the sideline.
yeah, they'd have to
That leaves
hodl.
less. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, but
That's a good one.
now the thing about that is like if you did something like let's say Ethereum, right? It's like a progressive type coin, that changes that. They're changing it. And so for something like that to go to proof of stake, absolutely I think it's like only a good thing. The problem is everyone loves Bitcoin cuz it's just old. Like that's literally why people love it is cuz it's been there forever. It like works. It's like they don't want to like mess with it. The fact it's like if they tried new stuff with it, and I think that would like tank the value because it's like why is Bitcoin is it it's not going to be as good as other proof of stake coins if it goes proof of stake. It's like the whole value proposition is it's like old school. And when you try to
Yeah,
make it new, that would probably just like tank the value. And it's kind of weird how that works.
true. With the exception of they are going to have to catch up and be more progressive. I'm just talking. Speaking of Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
community, because these quantum computers and quantum algos
Mm-hmm.
are fastly. Seriously, man. That's a one concern I have with
Mm-hmm.
blockchain, more precisely Bitcoin, is that they're not taking that as seriously as they should. I know that in one of the latest BIPs, that they have something about being more quantum resistant,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't see that at the forefront as I think it should be.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the guys, I'm not like an expert at quantum computing and all that, but a lot of people are saying, well, the algorithm, the quantum algos that are running currently in the chipsets qubits that are running currently don't have the capacity to break any of the blah blah blah. But I think RSA has now been exposed and not as not encrypted or secure anymore. So it's happening. So I don't know why the community isn't taking that more seriously.
Yeah, I think it's just like, well, just like we were talking about in the beginning about the hash rate issue, and like all of a sudden the big domino effect with horrendous fees because of 25% loss in hash rate, and like no one's doing anything about it. Like no one, like there's no idea of like, oh shit, this is a problem, we got to fix it. Like, Bitcoin will be fine, just wait until like if they're all that kind of an existential type crisis of like, $60 fees and like just a random disruption changes everything. If they're not going to change because we can't hard fork or whatever, they're going to change over that. They won't change over anything quantum until it's like the entire value of the chain is being destroyed, and they just need to right now, or lose all their money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It'll be fun to see how that evolves. Yeah, we should probably start wrapping this thing up. Where do you want to direct people to follow all your stuff?
Yeah, so they can check me out most active on Twitter. That's CryptoBlood_.
Because some other asshole took the real one or whatever.
I got that one too. No, I bought that one a year ago.
Oh, nice.
So I did get that one. I just haven't used it. So
it says it's it says account suspended, huh?
The Crypto Blood one?
Yeah. The not
really?
The not underscore one, just the regular one.
Really?
But a bunch of crypto accounts got suspended recently.
Oh man, I need to check on that. Dang, I didn't even know that. Maybe interesting. Yeah, I did buy that one though.
Yeah.
So from the guy who had it. So so you can check me out at CryptoBlood_.
Yeah.
As of now. YouTube is just CBTV, or you can just search Crypto Blood. And yeah, that's pretty most active in those two areas, man. I'm not really big on social media, Instagram. I'm not, but yeah, man, that's where people can check me out. I do videos. Hasn't been daily lately because I'm just taking care of the little one. I got a new baby.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, the little son. So he's 3 months now. So that's taking up a lot of my time. I'm also over at EOS Detroit, managing director over there now. So that's a EOS block producer. We block produce for a number of EOS IO blockchains, EOS, Flow, Telos, Wax. We do a lot of community work within the Wax community. So yeah, man.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks everyone for watching. It seems like, I don't know if it's the first, but it's one of the first, at least, times where I've had more viewers on Odysee the entire time than on YouTube, which is...
Oh, check me out on Odysee too.
Yeah.
I gotta migrate I don't know if I had to migrate my account over, but I'm on Library, Crypto Blood on Library. Check me out. I upload all my videos there.
Yeah, and hopefully you can start live streaming at some point there too.
I will.
Dual stream. It's only a matter of time before YouTube starts banning everyone good anyway. And
for sure. I couldn't even, so I had to, as of last month, I had this guy named Dr. Jim Willie. He's a golden jackass. He's down in Costa Rica, I think. Very extreme with his views, but I love having him on. I don't always agree with everything he has to say, but again, I just love having loaded onto Library, and I did part 2 and 3 over there as well. So check that out. It's pretty good.
Yeah, cool stuff. Well, everyone watching on Odysee, you can just state it on the same link and it'll pop back up there on the live stream.
Nice.
But if you're watching on YouTube, like a chump, no, if you're watching on YouTube, then there'll be another link that'll pop up and you'll do that. But yeah, so thanks everyone for watching. Thanks very much to Crypto Blood for, spending another time having a great chat. And yeah, we'll see you guys later.
Holla.